Good evening. So, I recently found this amazing free keyboard, the Casio CTK 601, and I'm going to spend some time this evening taking it apart and seeing if I can't get it to work. So, with that said, I'm going to share the URL first, because you guys can see it on YouTube, but I want to share it with my IRL friends. Share the URL first, because you guys can see it on YouTube, but share it with my IRL friends. Wrong browser. What the heck? Firefox updated so many versions that it just removed the icon from my computer. Thanks. Firefox updated so many versions that it just removed the icon from my computer. Thanks. Tonight I'm going to try to fix the Casio CTK 601. Live. I wonder if there's a service that I can use that would stream both to YouTube and Facebook at once, but I don't know it yet, so I'm just going to do the old-fashioned way and stream to one and link on the other. I wonder if there's a service that I can use that would stream both to YouTube and Facebook at once, but I don't know it yet, so I'm just going to do the old-fashioned way. Oh. Okay, so chat's on. Let's switch it up to the webcam so that's aimed down at what I'm doing. Okay, now let's fix that a little bit. Okay, it can't get any better basically because that's the edge of the laptop. So there we go. And yeah, I have a light under the desk that's sort of adding front lighting to this. Alright, so the first thing I guess is going to be taking all these screws out. Now, yeah, maybe I can turn this so that it sees more of the area. I always use this same kit you can get, like the Jackley cheap kit I bought years ago at Canada Computers. Does the trick. Most things that you need. It even has extensions, so if you need to do like long screws, you can do that. So I'm just gonna, I mean, what a lot of people do, and this is really smart, I don't have any, is they have that large sheet section of fridge magnet, and then you lay out all the screws in the orientation you pick them out on the fridge magnet. Actually, I might be able to do that on a smaller fridge magnet. Because two of my friends were married, like what, last summer? And their invitation was on a fridge magnet. So that is both novel and useful. Alright, so where's the other screws? Yeah, there's one down in there. There are tons. This thing's really light, which is a nice thing about it, but it's also like, there's not much to it. Probably all the electronics, I'm guessing, once we get this thing open, are going to be very small. Like one integrated circuit that does the whole thing, maybe. Probably not that simple, but what I'm expecting / hoping to find when I get in here is like a blown fuse or something. Or maybe like, you know, voltage regulator that's needs replacing. I don't have any, so that might end this video sooner than it should be because I don't have any parts. I'd have to order it off of eBay or something. Oh, it has mounting screws. I guess those are to use this on some kind of professional stand or something. Who knows? I'm not in any way a professional keyboardist, pianist. So I have no idea. But it looks like a hard mount for some kind of thing. Kind of like the mount on the bottom of your camera if you have a nicer camera, or even some cheap ones, for a tripod. Geez, that's a lot of screws. I mean, thankfully they're all the same type. I hate it when a device for the external screws uses like 2 or 3 different types of screws just for the case. That's ridiculous. Oh, you have to use a screw that can take this much load for this section of the case. No, just design the case so that you can use one type of screw. Oh well. Oh no, my nicely organized identical screws are all falling apart. Oh well. They're identical, it doesn't matter. Now I'm wondering if this steel plate has different ones. Nope, they're the same. So I can just kind of recklessly put them on that magnet and not really care. I could probably just use dishes. That's another technique for remembering what the heck you're doing. Just use a couple small dishes or something to hold the screws, all of the same type. I do like the fridge magnet technique though, because it just kind of holds them in roughly the orientation you need to put them back in. That's smart. I forget who I saw online who had that. It was one of the people who typically take old electronics like this and service them. When I was a kid, I lived up the street from a small electronics repair shop, and I would always go to their garbage and pick out all the stuff that they didn't bother fixing. Probably because the customer didn't want to pay, you know, the expense of their time or whatever. Because that's the sad thing about electronics. I mean, your expertise and time are worth money, but if the original device only cost like maybe twice what you're going to charge them to fix it, that person probably is just going to say no. So then you've got a useless piece of electronics that you can either fix and try to sell for not much more money, or it gets thrown out. So that's what happened. The electronics shop would throw a lot of things out. You can make your own music with this thing. Okay, so that looks like the circuit board that the keys hit, basically. So I didn't even need to take that off. So, oh, well, maybe I did. Oh no, I didn't have to. Oh, gotta be careful here. So yeah, I guess the keys come off at the bottom, and I can show you what I'm seeing here with the external camera. Hello again. So I just have a webcam, and yeah. So these two halves are held together by a whole lot of these ribbon cables. Those are the worst. And yeah, they're soldered to every point in the board, so there's no real easy way to take this apart and service it without desoldering these cables. Ugh, what a pain in the butt. Well, let me put the camera back where it goes. I should have set up a way to have my second angle always on top. I wonder if there's a way I can do that. Sadly, the cord for the camera I'm using on the second angle is not that long. I think I can do it though. And set it on a cushion, looking down at the device. So let's go back to the other angle. So now you can see what I'm seeing. An ugly mess. Yep, this thing was cheap. But, okay, so usual suspects here. Suspects. The usual suspects. So here's where power comes in. I guess I can pick up the camera to show you that. So the leftmost there. Sorry about that. Yeah, this leftmost one is the power socket, the J101. I see a coil there, but there's not much else. There doesn't appear to be a lot of protecting circuitry. So I guess my next thing would be just to break out the multimeter and maybe power this thing and see where power actually gets to. So pardon me a moment while I get the power that I was using to power this thing yesterday to see if it would work. I also decided there to start a video rendering task, so that I don't have to wait for it to finish later. While I'm not using my computer, let it do something. Ow. We've got 9 volts negative pole. Let's make sure of that. Let's make sure the power supply is even good, because I only ever use it to power like a little label maker. So DC -9. So is this inversed? Oh, did I put it back? Oh yeah, negative pole, right. So it is right. Negative pole, 9 volts, 9.37. So that's safely within. And wait for that to autofocus, maybe. But yeah, it's a negative pole power. Alright, so I'll plug this thing in. And move this back a little bit. Come on, buddy. There we go. So now this keyboard is getting power, and I'm going to see where it gets power also. Something just fell on me. Oh, it's the screwdriver. Huh. 10 millivolts gets through to the batteries. That's interesting. Ugh. I can't see very many traces here, so I don't know what I'm going to be able to do, though. I'll assume that's negative. Uh, 26 1A. Let's see here. Nothing. Is there a fuse somewhere? Like there's hot glue. They put hot glue around the friggin' power in. So that's the annoying part. So, huh. Now it might be more sensible to switch back to the other view, I guess. So, yeah, this is a bit awkward. By a bit, I mean a lot. So annoying. I wonder what happens if I take these boards off. Like, do the keys just pop through? That would be annoying. Well, let's give it a try. Here I thought this would be easy. That we'd be able to see the power right away. But we can't see the power at all. So it's all obscured on the other side of a board. It's battened down by these awful ribbon cables. A lot of diodes in here. It's kind of an interesting choice to use like one diode per key. I have no idea what that would do in the circuitry. That is where a more in-depth knowledge of this type of thing would be useful, but electronics knowledge is more general and basic. Uh-oh, all my screws are getting messed up. Doesn't matter though, because they're mostly the same kind. Oh, well that's interesting. They are all domes. They're rubber domes. Oh, that's weird. So, it's such a cheap keyboard that they used rubber domes. I wonder if it has velocity, because that would be doable with rubber domes. It's just, yeah. Typically rubber domes are only used for on and off, but you can probably measure the difference in resistance between a hard strike and a soft strike with the rubber dome, and it would give you a little bit of variance there that you could use for giving the keys sort of some velocity. So you can do a soft note with a soft touch, that kind of thing. But we'll have to find that out once we can get power into this thing, because that's the main issue right now, is we have no power. So I'm hoping once I take these boards off that we're hiding the rubber domes, that I can slide them through this plastic piece. Oh no, I can see from the webcam that I'm not going to be able to, so it's useless for me to take these off. Oh well. Well, that was interesting to find out, but it's not going to help me. What I can do, aha. Aha! So maybe that's how you're supposed to work on this thing. This crazy monstrosity. So this board, which you probably saw before, that's not a great angle. It's just a little board, and I'm wondering what it is connected to. It's not getting power either, so. Ah, this was the volume knob. Number 1. Oh god, that's the cheapest, dirtiest potentiometer I've seen in a long time. It's just a little slidey thing that's open to the elements. There's nothing protecting it from dust. Alrighty then. Now, what I might have to do is take some of these screws out, and I guess I'll go for this board next, because this one is holding everything down. Maybe I can test to see if it has any voltage first. Again, I can't even see where the traces are going, so I have no idea where to test. This is the cheapest board they could find. Alright. I'm going to assume this red is actually ground. It's getting 5 volts DC. Yeah, 5.18 to whatever this thing is. So the computer piece is getting voltage. I wonder if I tried, if this thing would turn on. Maybe I was just having maybe it was having a weird day yesterday. I don't know. Okay, so this is where the power switch is, right around here. So yeah, the power circuitry has to be all around. Nothing from the soft on. This is all one piece. Wow. Just amazing. Oh, and this board is the controller for the keys. Well, I mean, I wonder if I should undo the keyboard, because, like, that really does ruin my day trying to wrestle with that. Might be time to get the soldering iron out. And I have this ancient Weller. It does the trick. Did I bring flux out or anything? No, I didn't. I'm gonna go grab that. have the really cool flex. I just have the paste kind. So I'm just going to switch up camera angles again so I can show you what I'm doing. So I've got this thing of flux here. It's flux paste. And I'm just going to grab a big old gob of it. And yeah, the idea is to put some along these traces that I want to lift up, because I want to make it easier for the solder to flow. There's a lot better solder than this stuff, or a lot better resin than this stuff, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so I had the camera on my mouth there, so that's why I wasn't talking through that, but I hope it was kind of obvious what I was doing. I put the acid flux paste onto those pins, and then I just touched them. I just really had to touch them lightly, not for very long, so I don't lift very hard. I barely put any pressure on that cable just to make sure that I don't lift any of the traces on this board. But it's just that easy, you know, acid flux and a little tiny bit of heat and a tiny bit of pressure, and you won't ruin it. And it's hard to see with this camera because it hates to autofocus. It's really annoying that way, but it's really shiny. You can see those traces are now very shiny, so that's the way you want it to be, really. Maybe if I put my hand there, it seems to have, yeah, it's set to focus to to skin, I think. I'm not sure how the autofocus works, but it seems to, yeah. Anyway, I think you can see it. I have to get a better camera for this. So yeah, now that that's detached, I should be able to switch up camera angles, and now I should be able to lift things easier. I can also actually, I'm going to detach the battery power too. That's a really weird spot. It's just two jumper cables that they attach the battery to. It's not even a point on the motherboard or on the main board. That's so weird. Circuit board. That's what I was reaching for. So yeah, this is what I'm looking at. It's just a very simple, very cheap one-sided print of a circuit board. So I gotta get to that other side so I can do anything with this. And now I can take the top part away from the keys. So that's handy. Oh, I wonder if I should reassemble the keys first, because I don't need them to be apart for any reason. All these little rubbery guys. The rest of the rubber. There it is. Oh, some's even a different color. They didn't even use the same ones for the entire unit. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bend these the circuit board down onto the little rubber domes. I'm trying to bend it down onto the rubber domes so it's back where it used to be. So I'm going to take 2 screws and screw in the ends of each bit. Where's my screwdriver going? Now you get to find the screwdriver with the senile old electronics person. Oh, there's the cap from the volume knob came off. Oh, there it is. Well, this is fun. In between the keys with some food on it was a little star, a gold star. That was somebody's gold star for trying to play without food on it. Oh no, that's lithium grease. Well, that's good. It's a little less gross than I thought it was. Yes, lithium grease is supposed to be there. I mean, overall, this thing is pretty clean inside. Probably not that old. You can still find this information about this model on Casio's website, but I don't know if they still make it. So if you've just joined me, Casio does still make cheap crap. But this particular Casio cheap crap happens to have a lot of features, so it's one of their nicer things. Some of the Casio keyboards from the early 80s are really beloved for their hokey sounds. People like to use them to give that retro feel to their music. So, I mean, I can trash talk Casio, but and they deserve it. But they also service an important market, which is people who don't have like boatloads of money but who want to make electronic music. So they use all the cheapest methods possible to give you a basic keyboarding experience. Innovative. That's a lot of screws. Alright, board number 2. Get back where you came. And these screws are all, thankfully, the same. Thank you, Casio, for not being nuts. For not over-engineering the type of screws you use for each board. Three more to go. I know this is kind of maybe boring to watch, just putting the screws. If I make a video out of this later, I'll probably just fast forward through this bit. So people don't have to watch me putting in 1,000 individual screws for the stupid keyboard. Now I hope this still works fine. I put it back the best I could. The key still feels fine. And there's the little wires and the power for the battery. Off you go. Alright, back to the matter at hand. This wily circuit board. Now I wonder if I can bring the closer angle. Now all I'm doing is removing a heck of a lot more screws, because this thing has thousands of screws. All to hold down this really cheap circuit board so that it doesn't fall to pieces, I guess. If you're gonna make cheap crap, do it right. Do it like Casio. So even if it's cheap, it should hold together. Come on. Now I'm just using the lid from the acid flux to hold some more different types of screws, to hold the main board screws. Are ridiculously cheap, and look at all the hot snot on that too. Just like tons of hot snot all over that stuff. Oh my god. Electronicians. Yeah, that's a word. The electronician's best friend. Good old hot snot. So we're getting 5 volts. We're getting 5 volts from the board out of the 9 volts that goes into this thing. So that's something. There's probably a step down regulator. One of these parts. Yeah, one of them dar parts there is a voltage regulator. Jeez. Oh, I almost want to unsolder all of the stuff from this main board because it's in the way. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Like, it's not hard to remember where all this stuff goes, and it'll be so much easier to work on this device overall if I can take it apart. So I'm just letting the iron heat up a bit. So I really only need to touch each element for like a second, although you got to be careful because if you If you let the wire spring upwards, it might fling very hot solder up in the air. That's no fun. And quickly done. I'll make sure these pads are all nice and clean. Oh, that looks good. Don't you just love it when the solder, it gleams? It's too much. That's my secret trick for getting extra solder off my old soldering iron. Hit it on the workbench. Okay, so, oh yeah, I forgot this last screw here. I don't know why I didn't undo that. Anyway, so that goes out of the way. And maybe I can take the last two off too, and that will make this completely detached, and I can work with everything independently and not have to worry about it. So I'm just going to do all of these. I'm going to switch hit so it's easier to see. And I'm also going to take the camera and put it in my mouth again. Because that sounds amazing, doesn't it? Yay! Alright, so the board is free. Now I can unscrew everything else. So that's interesting. MX J9721. It's on Toshiba TC5525 DFL70L. TC5525 7DFL-70L. Two Toshibas. I don't know what that is. A specific Casio chip. Casio GD277F. And a Casio GT913F. I don't know what those all do, and I wasn't showing them to you, so that's not very useful. Oh, why is this camera so garbage? Here, I'll switch the other camera. That's better. It's probably not good that the camera I'm handling is yeah, okay, so there's the Casio chips. I'm sorry, this webcam's pretty low resolution, so you're probably not seeing very much. And there's the MX and the two Toshibas. Alright, so there's that board removed. So now all of the other boards are free. Oh, I'm sorry about that. That was probably loud. Let's put this camera back over here for now. You can probably hear all the fans and the AC going on here. Now my hands are covered in acid flux. In fact, I'm going to wash my hands because it's kind of greasy. It's kind of unpleasant. I'll wash the board later with isopropyl alcohol after I resolder those points. There's no point in washing it now because I'm just going to have to put more acid flux on it later to reattach the wires. So, time to get back to the super fun task of taking 1,000 screws out of this thing. I may end up desoldering the speakers too, because that would fully free me to work with the main board and not have to worry about ripping the wires while doing it. Any more? I don't think there are. Well, I think the board should be free. There's some things holding it down. Probably, oh no, there's a screw right there. Hidden by the cable. There's even a little arrow pointing to it in the shape of a screw. So, I guess unfortunately, the beige or the brown board's being held down by the screen controller. Oh, come on. I'm stripping the screw. I don't want to do that. Thankfully, all these screws are the same too, so I can just put them in the same place. Fucking 1,000 of them. Oh my god. There's a little potentiometer on this screen. So I wonder if you can like adjust the contrast from inside. Contrast adjusted at the factory. And there's, what's PV? There's a single green wire going to this stupid thing. Aside from the ribbon cable. Oh, maybe primary voltage or something? There's the LCD. It looks kind of neat when it's not behind a piece of scratched plastic. So I'm going to undo that PV wire because that will stop me from freely enjoying myself. So. Because I didn't put flux on it, it's taken forever to get off. That should teach you a lesson, kids. Always trust in flux. Stuff is freaking magic. It also tends to, I don't know, it makes life easier when you have crappier solder in things. That's my alarm to tell me to do something productive with myself. Thank you, phone. Alright, this thing should finally lift up. Oh, come on. Oh, there's some more rubber domes for volume. Oh, well, what's keeping you? Oh no, it's just around the post, that's all. Oh my god. There we go. Come on. So the rubber domes are all stuck to this. Ew. Oh, is that lithium grease to... What the? Oh my god. They've built... gotta bring the camera in for this. This is the cheapest shit I've seen in a while. Alright, so you see that grease spot here? This one? That grease spot is where this thing scrapes against, and that is another potentiometer. I'm guessing a stereo, that must be like a stereo fader or something like that. Jeez. That's cheap. Oh, wow. So, well, now that we've got it apart, we can try and see if we can get some power into it and see where that power is able to get inside the circuitry. So, let's feed this thing 9 volts again. And let's pull out our trusty voltimeter. So there's these diodes here. I wonder what they're for, because they're on this little guy. Negative, like 100 millivolts. Okay, so let's start from here. .3 again. .3 makes it over these diodes. .3 makes it all the way over here. What's this guy? .3, and on the other side of it is nothing. .60 millivolts. What is this part? Oh, it's some diodes. It's a couple of diodes. Alright. This is like a home-built rectifier or something. What the heck is this thing? It's kind of hard for me to see. Okay. Millivolts, and on this side it's 9.3 volts. Are these diodes fried? 13, 12 millivolts. Oh. I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but it's measured in millivolts. It's like not doing well. Let me take this camera in closer. Oops. Okay. So, come on. To recap, and I might need to recap, you get 9.3 volts at the supply, you get 9.3 volts at the so it looks like it has protection if it has diodes here, at least, for plugging in the wrong way, but maybe their diodes are now fried. Like maybe something, because we get 13 millivolts on this side, and on this side it's 9.3 volts. That's weird. Alright, so I don't think I have any other diodes. I wonder if I could just jumper this thing and see if it worked. I mean, not the wisest thing, but I don't really care about this device because it's not mine. Well, what do I have here? I'm just going to look on this board one more time. Yeah, it's a diode. It's 3 diodes, all in the same orientation, and 1 jumper. This is a jumper wire here. So we've got a jumper wire, a diode, and a diode. The middle one is actually one of those clear diodes. So I might have to look up power supply circuits and see what we've got going on here. I can also look up the value of those diodes and see how much of a voltage drop is supposed to happen across them, because that might be the first clue as to what's going on here. So let's flip this over and take a close look. And that doesn't really help because they're so tiny. And they're attached to the board, so they're hard to read. They're called D101, D103. I wonder if there's schematics for this thing online. Service manual download. This file download is downloadable free of charge. So I'm literally just using my TV computer to browse. Okay. So, where's the download? Aha! There we go. Casio service manual. Power supply circuit. 5 voltages shown in the following table. VDD voltage is always generated. VDD 5 volts, 5 volts, 5 volts, 5.6 volts, 9 volts, power amplifier, and pilot lamp. When batteries are set or an AC adapter is connected, the reset IC provides a low pulse to the CPU. The CPU then initializes its internal circuit and clears the working storage RAM. When the power switch is pressed, the CPU receives a low pulse of power signal. The CPU sends APO signal to the power supply circuit. Also sends a reset signal to the DSP. Wow. VDD power switch buttons. Is there a switch? Or do they just mean the... Okay, so main volume, filter. So where's VDD on this board? Is that labeled anywhere? Yeah, there's VDD. So I wonder if it's getting any voltage. Because we saw before the CPU was getting 5 volts, and that's what it's supposed to get, so... .37 on one side and millivolts on the other side. So it's not getting past those diodes. Millivolts, 4 volts DC. Negative 2 volts. So on the 2 legs, not the emitter, but the other, okay, so VDD goes into the emitter. So let me, so 4 volts DC is going into the emitter, 7 volts, 3 volts, 7 volts, okay. 7 volts is going into the emitter, but it's not coming out. I am at a loss here. Let me just look at these pieces. it's still super weird that maybe only millivolts are supposed to get through to these parts until yeah, that's confusing. So, well, we get 8 volts there. What about at this regulator? 10 millivolts. 0 millivolts. Oh, we got 8 volts there. So we're only getting 8 volts. We're not getting a whole... Yeah, we get 9.3 from the supply, and by the time it gets over here, it's down to 8 volts. Where is an actual circuit diagram? Printed circuit boards. Oh, here we go. Schematic diagrams. Major waveforms. NMI signal, button scan signal, DAC output, sound signal. VOP voltage. Huh. This is turning out to be a pain. Alright. So, I wish there was an easy way to show you what I was seeing. Warning, Will Robinson. So, right around here is where the power is coming in. It makes it through those two jumpers and those. And it goes to its first little challenge here, these boys. So on this side, we're getting millivolts. On this side, we're getting 9.3 volts. Along this rail here, we're getting about 8 volts. GY C45. 1, 12, 11. So it looks like there's some test points here at least. So one millivolt. Mm, 0.1 millivolts. Yeah, nothing's getting through there. Nothing gets past you. Emmett! No! My cat is eating the wire to the battery power. That is acid flux on it. You really fool. You're gonna poison yourself. At this, yeah, it's the rail. Interesting. So what's the weakest component here? Probably these diodes. So what's D102 or D103? I don't know if we can search for them. One T2. Just a Zener diode. One SS133T. Okay, what's a 1T2? Zener diode as a voltage regulator in the tutorial. Okay. Specification. 1T2 and 1 axle. I'm just wondering what the specification is supposed to be for this. Doesn't even fucking match. 1 SS1 33T 77T, yeah, voltage reverse 80 volts, current average rectified 130 milliamps, voltage forward 1.2 volts, 100 milliamps. Current reverse leakage 500 nanoamps. Capacitance 2 picofarads. Alright. Mounting type through hole. So you gonna shut off, man? Does that mean this thing's low on battery now? It's probably just a minute warning that's, you know, hey, your meter's still on. You're wasting battery here. So if I take power out of this thing, over limit, this diode's over limit in both directions. Well, that's an issue. All three of these diodes don't detect anything at all. Oh, diode test. Well, there we go. 0.5 volts. 0.5 volts. 0.5 volts. Nothing. 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 So if I just touch these, just the bare wire is giving me like 0.002 of a volt of resistance. The forward resistance is 0.5 volts on these diodes, which seems about right. They're all consistent, so that's better news. .5 mega ohms or over limit. 1.6 mega ohms. 1.6 mega ohms. Interesting. Okay, so 0.559, if I look back at that circuit diagram, voltage forward 1.2 volts at 100 milliamps. Small signal, 4 nanoseconds. Reverse current leakage 500 nanoamps at 80 volts. So that's pretty effective. Part status obsolete. Huh. Unit price, 14 cents. Usually you would think this would be enough power to power the LED. Oh, it's probably trying to power all the surrounding circuitry too. Oh. Well, I'm getting awfully tired of this for now. The initial suspects were not the problem. So I'm going to have to do some more looking on this board. I guess what I can do for now is detach the board from the speakers so it makes it easier to work on. Maybe the next video will be on my workbench instead of on the living room table. So I'm just detaching the speaker from this board now. So I just tugged on the cord from underneath the board there. It's enough to bring it loose. I might need to reconnect the daughter board to be able to test this thing. But it's free from its shackles. Because the daughter board had the CPU on it, and the CPU controls this contraption. It probably controls turning it on and off because this device has a soft on. But the fact that the CPU, well, the CPU gets 5 volts, so see, that's the funny bit. Like, it's something about this circuitry here that's not getting it. Something about this board is not getting the signal, or not getting enough power to turn things on. Just try and inspect the parts here visually. I can't see any that look blown or anything like that. Who knows? I mean, I may have to recap this thing. It could be really old. When was it made? I mean, it's kind of the cheap way out, but it's also like the right way out. Capacitors are one of the first components to go in anything like this. So, General MIDI. There's the bottom of the unit. Do you say when you're made? Assembled in Mexico. Contrabass. 97. This thing was made in, I think, August of 97. So it's a bit old. Maybe not old enough for capacitors to go bad, but I mean, the early 2000s was when there was like actually a spat of bad capacitors ruining a lot of motherboards and computers, so you never know. So I'm going to clean all of this up. It's time to clean everything up and put it away. Goodbye for tonight. Sorry, nothing was fixed yet, but we did a lot of tearing apart and soldering, so that should be fun to watch for some people, I guess. Bye.